Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I have the very busy and very talented Genoveva Rossi with me. How are you doing?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm excited.
Hey, no problem. The pleasure is all mine. Like I said, she's very, very busy. Award-winning actress on stage and in film with over 106 titles underneath her belt. Anything from, 106 titles. You have the Central Authority. I could go on and on and on. The Central Authority is really what we're plugging right now because it's about to be released, and I'm so excited for that. For those of you, I want to talk. I can't talk too much about it because it hasn't been released yet, but you're going to love the way this movie was filmed. You're going to love how everything came together on this film. And outside of that, she is also a very talented professional psychic reader, specializing in tarot. I know I'm going to say this wrong, but runes, palms, and crystals. So, like I said, jack of all trades. How are you doing today?
Awesome. I'm actually in my car right now. Sorry about that, but I have to run an errand right after this. So
Hey, no, if that's the worst thing that happens today, I'm still going to have a great day. So we know about the film and all that, but getting into the psychic readings, how is that something is that something you've always kind of felt, or is it something that later on in life you started to get more in tune with?
Well, that's an interesting question. Well, my mother, my uncle, and my grandmother always had a lot of premonitions and ESP. And then I was always very attracted to tarot cards and divination. So when I was 15 years old, I bought my first deck of cards and just started getting into and reading about it and just kind of gravitating in that direction. So
That's really awesome. And it's something cool. I've been able to watch some videos of you, and you were just a guest recently at a festival. And were you doing readings there, or was that just celebrity guest?
That was in Smithville, New Jersey, which is near Atlantic City. And I was a celebrity guest, and I was also reading tarot cards, and it was right before like Halloween. So I was super busy with both because everybody's in the mood for horror movies and tarot card readings right before Halloween. So.
Right. And like I said, all of her links down here in the description. You could check out some of the work she's done as well as her social media sites. So make sure you're checking down here. Support what we're doing out here. She's out here busting her ass. Like I said, very, very busy lady. Go to her IMDb page, look at everything that's in pre and post production, and you'll see just how busy she truly is. But today, love, we are here to talk about the first horror movie that you ever watched. What got you into the genre? And your first horror movie was
The Pit and the Pendulum with Barbara Steele and Vincent Price.
What an amazing start. And this is really cool because this is the first time I've had the pleasure of talking about this film. So I'm very excited to talk about it. How old were you the first time that you seen it? Do you remember?
I would imagine probably like 6 or 8, my parents didn't probably have me watching a lot of incredibly violent things at a young age. So I think they felt like The Pit and the Pendulum, although I guess it is kind of disturbing because it's based on an Edgar Allan Poe thing, was still somewhat PG compared to some of the other things that are out there.
But it's still a brilliant story. For those of you that have not seen The Pit and the Pendulum, I believe they did a remake of it in the 90s, but the Vincent Price one is definitely where you want to go. Just his reaction. I thought she was dead. Like I love Vincent Price. So it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, I love Vincent Price too. Just about every movie with him, and also I love Barbara Steele. She has a small part in it, but she really punctuates the film.
Mm-hmm. And that's just what I was just about to ask you. Which scene from the film affected you the most?
Well, it's kind of a spoiler to say, but it's like, I guess when Vincent Price figures out what has happened to his wife, Barbara Steele,
Mm-hmm.
and realizes that it's all been like kind of a plot to drive him mad.
Right. And again, the movie's from 1961. We don't have to have spoiler alerts. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I don't know what you're waiting on. So it's one of those. And Vincent Price, another thing, I believe he was in the original House on Haunted Hill as well.
Absolutely.
And that's another movie that he did that is just absolutely amazing. When you talk about The Pit and the Pendulum, what's the first thing that pops into your head when you start thinking about that film?
I guess that the scenes with the pendulum going back and forth and like a couple of the characters almost getting chopped in half.
Mm-hmm.
That's like pretty intense. And also the scenes with, I think there was something called like an Iron Maiden that they have in this like torture room.
Yeah.
kind of horrific too. It's actually a pretty disturbing movie if you think about it too much. Like, it's not like extremely gory, but it's definitely disturbing. It's based, of course, on the Edgar Allan Poe story. It's a Roger Corman film. Vincent Price did a whole bunch of Edgar Allan Poe kinds of movies with Roger Corman, I think, in that time period. So.
And this is one of the ones, like you said, it's one of those that it doesn't rely heavily on jump scares or gore. It just lets the story tell itself, and the story itself scares you. Because, like you said, the Iron Maiden getting shut in that, like, pure torture.
Well, it's almost like psychological horror because we're trying to drive Vincent Price, who starts out as a very nice man, mad. But what they don't realize is how dangerous a thing it is to drive Vincent Price's character mad. And that, and I guess that's like kind of like a thing, like, you be careful what you release in another person if you push them over the edge.
Yeah.
If you bring them to their breaking point, you might not like what you find.
And Edgar Allan Poe had a great way of telling that story, of kind of almost be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. And Edgar Allan Poe is notorious for making those stories hit you in the chest. So it's amazing to be able to talk about this with you. Now, it's hard to talk about a favorite kill in this movie because there isn't really too many that are shown. But I guess let's say which kill affected you the most. Would it be the one that didn't actually happen, maybe?
I guess what happens to Barbara Steele's character in the end, where we see her like trapped in the Iron Maiden, and then the whole room's been sealed, and she knows that help isn't going to come.
You talk about a psychological thriller, psychological horror. There's nothing more psychological than being trapped and knowing that you're not going to be able to escape. Like that.
Exactly. Yeah, it is a pretty psychological movie, and a lot of like Edgar Allan Poe's I guess stories do kind of play on this whole idea of madness and being driven insane, if you think about it. The Telltale Heart and all these other, and the Raven.
The Raven.
A lot of
and you're right
insanity.
that it comes back to what was, you don't know a person, what was going on in him that was trying to get that madness out. Like he did it the right way. Obviously, he put it into art. So that's something that's really great, but you never know what a person's going through or what the person's thinking. So that's another thing that's great about Edgar Allan Poe is he put that into art, and it was such a fun thing to watch. So we talked about which scene affected you the most. Now I'd like to know what your favorite scene from The Pit and the Pendulum is.
The favorite scene from The Pit and the Pendulum. I like every scene I think that Barbara Steele is in because I liked her a lot as a girl, and I like her a lot now. So when I'm watching that, she's not in a lot of scenes, but the scenes that she is in tend to be my favorite because I really feel like she kind of punctuates the film. And and then I think the sadness sometimes of Barbara Steele's career is that she didn't always get as many scenes as I would have liked in all the films that she was in.
Sure.
She always kind of left you wanting more,
And we talked about her a little bit before we started the episode. And a question I wanted to ask is, does she influence your career at all? Like, do you ever like try to channel her when you're acting, or is it more just kind of like a subtle thing with her?
I always liked her as an actress. I've seen a lot of her films like Black Sunday, and I also have seen her in the Dark Shadows revival series that I got online, and a bunch of things that she's done. And I really find her to be a very strong actress. I recently saw her in The Butterfly Room that she did a couple of years ago. And, she's very consistent. She has a great voice. She has a great look. And I like her eyes. She has like a real, like her eyes just convey so much emotion in her films. And she has a really unique and interesting kind of look to her. I'm actually friends with her on Facebook, and she's a great lady, and I follow her career for sure.
That's cool. It's always one of those things where you kind of get nervous to meet your heroes. I've been lucky enough to have some of huge influences in my life come on this podcast and talk to me. And I'm always so nervous beforehand because like I always put all of you up on a pedestal on how amazing I think you are. And I'm always scared that it's going to be like, oh, they're a dick, or, oh, she's a jerk. I have not had one bad guest, not even one. Everybody has been so kind, so respectful. And I've made a lot of good friends doing this. So it's really, really humbling to be able to meet you guys and realize how down to earth and how much we really do have in common really is. We talked about your first horror movie, Genoveva. Now I always do this as well. I want to go scream on you for a second. what's your favorite scary movie? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
I always kind of go back to The Exorcist because I've read it and I've watched it many times, and it's kind of based on loosely on a true story. And I guess if you're someone that's been raised in a Christian Judea background, exorcism is even in the Bible, and it's a phenomenon that actually exists in like every culture, like in Judaism, um, African tribes, like all over the world, people believe in demons and possession. So it's kind of interesting because you wonder when you watch it, like how much of this is true? Could this happen? Does it happen? You see the exorcism of Emily Rose that was based on a true story and a lot of other things. And, there's a lot of factual information in The Exorcist. There's a lot of witnesses. I watched a documentary on it. I think that exorcism was in New England. It was based on, it was a young boy. And I think there were over 100 witnesses to paranormal activity.
That's so terrifying because, and The Exorcist is one of those movies for me that when I watched it as a kid, I looked at it completely different as watching it as a parent. I have 2 little girls. I have a son now. So these are things that as a parent watching this movie, it almost paralyzes you watching your daughter literally decompose in front of you almost and turning into Pazuzu the demon. It's just one of those things that is so terrifying. And as a kid, obviously you're scared because this is scary. As an adult, you're scared because it's scary. But as a parent, you're double scared because it's scary. And I'm one of those people that puts myself in a film when I'm watching it. And just thinking of watching my daughter go through that and knowing there's nothing I can do to help. I'm trying as hard as I can to try to fix her and save her. And there's nothing that my powers can do. So I love The Exorcist. I think it's a fantastic movie. I think that there's a stigma around it because of what it did to people when it came out. And it's brilliant. People were crying, leaving the theater, puking. It made its mark, and it will forever live in history as one of the greatest movies of all time.
Oh, absolutely, and very well acted, And then the whole, all the Exorcist movies are actually pretty good too. I really like the Exorcist 3 as well. That was good.
The shears scene, the first time I seen with the nurse with the shears, that's one of the. I think there's like 5 movies in my whole life where I've watched it and went, oh shit, and screamed, and that was one of them. That was one.
That scene and the little old lady crawling around in the ceiling too. Yes. I thought it was good. Yeah, there was a couple really good moments with that. And the priest character, he was a really strong actor. He was really a great dramatic actor. So.
Yeah, and I'm so with you because The Exorcist 3 does not at all get the credit that it deserves because it is a great movie. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because I love The Exorcist 3. The Exorcist is where it's at, obviously. But The Exorcist 3 is a very, very underrated horror movie. It's a great, great film.
It's a strong film if you watch it. And it really has a great conflict where we have this priest who dies trying to save this little girl, and then in his last moment of life, the soul of a serial killer comes into his body, and he's forced to witness all these terrible things. He becomes like a prisoner within his own body.
Yeah, he's like a passenger on the bus. There's somebody driving, and he just has to look out the windows the whole time, and that's again being trapped, being a prisoner. It's like such a terrifying
It's like
thought.
being in hell on earth. It's like hell on earth that the devil, I guess, has done to him for not allowing him to stay in like Linda Blair's character.
Right. Well, we always do end these with the same question. We're going to go back to the pit and the pendulum. We end on a skull count. 0 to 5 skulls, 0 being the worst, 5 being the best. You can use half and quarter skulls. What is your ranking of the pit and the pendulum?
I would say for a horror movie, I don't think it's really well done. So I would give it 5 skulls.
Perfect. Great rating. Now, everybody, like I said, I know I've said it once, but I want to repeat this. Make sure you're clicking the links down here in the description, showing her some love. Genoveva, thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.